required me to be really good at sales. I had an overhead, and so I needed to make more money to, cover that overhead. So I started actually inviting a lot of people to home events. I would have.
Adrian, welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Excited to be here.
All right, so explain this to me. You did your first deal in college, which I don't know what I was doing in college, but it wasn't real estate. You know what I mean? How did that even come about?
So I would say I started off in single family, and I did my first deal when I was 17. I was a sophomore in college. I wholesaled my first house, and so I ended up doing wholesaling in single family for about 4 years. And then I got introduced to multifamily, and I still bought my first deal while I was in college as well. It was a small 16 unit.
That's
but I did. I got started in college as a freshman in real estate. Yeah.
So how many deals did you wholesale then?
I did about 60 to 70 houses over a course of three and a half years.
That's a lot. Now, how did you get involved in that, especially at a 17-year-old? Like how did that come about?
Yeah. So I got started in, business. I got bit by the entrepreneurial bug when I was 16, I think. I was a part of a multi-level network marketing company. And so I got introduced to personal development. I got introduced to Think and Grow Rich, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, Robert Kiyosaki. So I got introduced to all these guys super early, and the mindset started getting developed, and I started realizing that I could do a lot. And so, I saw a Robert Kiyosaki ad on Facebook. And it was a free event. I thought he was going to be there. It made it seem like he was going to be there. It was all of his coaches. And all they were talking about was wholesaling and real estate. And I was a freshman in college, and I was like, this is it,
Yeah, it's easy because you don't need any money for it. But now why did you get involved in this? Because two things. One is your parents don't tend to be the most supportive people of your entrepreneurial escapades, number one. And number two, your friends certainly aren't. You guys got other priorities. How were you able to get involved in this business with everything, with your surroundings? What did you do about your surroundings? Were friends and family holding you back? What did you do about it? What did you go through there?
Yeah, no, they definitely, it was a lot of sacrifice. I get, asked a lot, like, you're young, how'd you do it? But I think I went through so much from all the noise, the exterior noise. I was, my family for sure. My mom supported me, and she always will. But my father had that, like, hey, you need to get a job, you need to go to school, you need to get good grades, you need, get a construction degree. And so when I got started in, network marketing, I was like, this is it. I'm going to be a millionaire, and I'm going to sell these products across the world. And it was just super, super challenging. But then in college, I actually joined a fraternity as a freshman, and it was even worse. It was even more of a challenge to get through all that. I was that young kid, and the millionaire. Oh, the millionaire walked in the room, like, hey guys, quiet down, the millionaire's in the room now. So I had to overcome all of that. But I think the reason why and how I was able to overcome all that is through personal development. I mean, all the personal development I was doing, like, I just knew that it was good information. I knew that if I focused on what I wanted, and also like the people around me that were telling me all these things, they didn't have anything in their life, really. I mean, they had nothing for me to say, like, okay, I'm going to listen to you, So I didn't take no for an answer, and I didn't take that to heart. There was some challenges, but I went through it, and I still face some challenges today. So
I relate to that a little bit with the college thing. So I was definitely not a millionaire in college, but I was selling knives, and I was making 30, 40K a summer.
Yeah.
Compared to my friends that were making, 2 to 3K a summer.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit more change to play with, but I'm just curious, especially at that age, you don't really have good influences around you necessarily, or anyone that's in your circle of 5 that's going to push you forward. And I'm just curious, did you have that somewhere else?
So I got involved in the real estate networking clubs. As soon as I went to that Robert Kiyosaki event, I asked, around the room, what do I do? Who do I need to meet? Where do I need to go? And I downloaded meetup.com. I went to every single real estate networking club in San Antonio. And I just started shaking hands and I started meeting people in there. And I was like, man, I mean, these people are way ahead of me. These people, are doing huge deals and making really good money. And, all my friends back over there who are telling me that I'm dumb, that I don't know, what I'm doing, they had nothing. So I actually started surrounding myself around the club a lot more. I started volunteering in the events. I started, hanging out. I would, those real estate networking clubs, they start at like 5 and they end like at 10. So I was there like all day. I was, just networking, shaking people's hands. And the thing is that early on, I knew through my personal development that I needed to find a way to provide value for these people to be my friend. And so I got really good at finding deals. I got really good at finding off-market motivated seller leads through, driving for dollars, cold calling, mailers. I was doing it all, blanketing neighborhoods. So these people like started liking me. So they would hang out with me. But I was okay with it. I was okay with it because they were teaching me something that would pay me for the rest of my life. So, I actually, I started making friends in the real estate clubs and they were all older than me, but, I was okay with that.
Were you getting good grades as well?
That was a challenge. Yeah. So I was actually studying construction management. Mm-hmm. So I was actually like passionate about it. I found my passion in architecture and, construction early on when I was super young. And so I actually liked that stuff. But I definitely knew that, in the construction program, they were talking a lot about being the best construction employee for whatever company, right? They weren't teaching you how to build your own construction company. So it got really boring for me. And, so I would just, be friends with the people in class and they would help me, study and they would help me, work on those things. So
did you looking back on it now, do you think you were born an entrepreneur? Because it sounds to me like you're just kind of against the grain from the beginning of the institution, right? So, thinking back and you're selling chocolate bars door to door or whatever, you think that was there?
Yeah, actually. So my father, he was an extremely good salesman. He didn't go to college. He didn't have a family to, help him, guide him in the right direction. And he actually started selling cars. And so very early on, I remember going to the dealership and, him sitting me in the corner of the office and him just closing deals. And like subconsciously, I was just, sitting there, he was taking care of me, but I was just like learning and listening. And I remember like watching him get up and not let people leave. I remember, just him getting aggressive. And also, he was the type of dad that would say like, all right, all those chocolates from school, I'm not going to sell them for you. You're going to sell them and I'm going to help you, but you're going to go out and sell them and go into, the dealership and go ask all these people to buy chocolates. And so I was like nervous at first, but I started getting really good at it. And I started, being really good at it. And so in high school, I started selling, phone cases. I started selling like, snapback caps. And so I was just going, and it's in the blood for sure for my father. So.
Yeah. So this is cool because sometimes it takes a minute to ignite that. So a lot of people listening to this right now are probably like, man, you're way ahead of where I was when I was your age. Right. And I'm actually thinking that way too. I'm like, you're just doing all kinds of cool stuff. But I think at a certain point in anyone's life, they can find that thing that ignites them. Is even in the sales field. I think the closest parallel to entrepreneurship is sales. And for me, I was such a problem child all the way until I was 18, getting in trouble with the law. I was just I was going down a terrible path, to be honest. I wasn't going anywhere good. And then when I learned sales and, I started to get recognized for my ability to sell, and then I developed that skill further. That's what ignited it for me. That was like the ones like flipped the switch. And all of a sudden after that, I was on fire, coupled with the personal development stuff and everything. And then after that, it was just kind of like, all right, see you later, and then I was down that path. And so for anyone that's listening, you may be 50 right now and you're like, man, I didn't do that stuff, but maybe you haven't found that thing that just triggers you, that snaps that light switch on. To go forward. It sounds like you might have done that at an early age.
Yeah. I think the personal development, I was doing a lot of Zig Ziglar. And that talks a lot about sales. And I think the company that I was selling those products for, I mean, required me to be really good at sales. I mean, I had an overhead, and so I needed to make more money to, cover that overhead. So I started actually inviting a lot of people to home events. I would have like little events in my clubhouse in my apartment complexes, and I had to stand in front of the room and sell the product. And I practiced it. I was horrible my first few events. I sat back up and my mind sat back down, kind of thing. And those few events sucked, but I got better at it, and I focused and I studied and I just practiced.
I think I think very few people are born salespeople. I mean, I think some, who they are, but I think to a large degree, you can learn to sell. I mean, I'm not a born salesperson. I'm kind of uncomfortable, but I would say I've gotten somewhat proficient at it. And I think anyone can learn how to sell. And I think it's important that you learn how to sell. You sell stuff all the time. If you're married, you're selling your spouse every single day, right? Your kids, same thing. I mean, selling is such an important skill. And like Garrett, the experience you had with Cutco, my daughter lasted 14 days, a little shorter than you did. But the training program that she learned that was priceless. So I think sales is a super important skill to have.
Well, anyone, Michael, that you see that's successful right now, they all have the ability to sell. In fact, some of the people that are the most successful, if you get around them, you're like, man, that person could sell you anything. And it's almost like a byproduct of the fact of the other things that they have going on, but it's so dialed in.
Yep.
That's, because you, like you said, you're selling everything all the time. And so people have learned that. And I agree. It's a skill that becomes learned once people get out of their comfort zone.
And that's
no longer is it really one of those things that people look at and they're like, oh, it's like a cheesy used car salesman or any of that stuff. I think selling now in today's society is more acceptable.
Sure. But I think you mentioned it, and you mentioned too, Adrian, is getting out of that comfort zone, because your dad asked you to do something like sell chocolates. Like I asked my kids to sell popcorn for the Boy Scouts. Man, did they want to do that? Heck no, they didn't want to do that. That's awful. Going to door and have someone tell you no, like that's awful. And then after about the 12th door, 15th door, they're like, I just said no. And that's a huge skill that most people, especially when they're not in sales roles, they're just so afraid of it. And so it's really great that your dad kind of forced you to do that. So you got the entrepreneurial bug early on, which is really, really cool. And you got into real estate, and then you pivoted to multifamily. Why did you do that? What was wrong with simply doing what you were doing before, and why did you switch?
So I had a vision for my future of being financially free, traveling the world, building wealth, having residual income, and all through real estate. Right. And so, I thought single family, I got really good at it. I got really good at finding deals and structuring and building rapport and selling and closing deals. But it was, we would close the deal, we'd make the money, and I'd have to go and find the next deal. And so I had to get back, from the start. I had to go talk to the VAs, get, the sales guys going, and then get a lead, and then close it, and then boom, make money. And then it's like, okay, again, and so it was very transactional. And I had to drive all over town to go to one lead, one appointment. I had to wait in traffic. 1 hour there, 1 hour back. San Antonio is a big city. And so I just, I got to a point where I was like, what's next for me? I was young. And so I started hearing about multifamily through my business partner, Mauricio. So he actually, I was his intern in a construction firm, actually, from college. So I went to go do an internship for my hours, and he actually was a project manager for the construction firm. And so we were working together, and I was doing single family, and he was like, hey man, like I also want to travel. I also want to, live life on my own terms. And so he told me, like, show me this real estate thing. So me and him started doing a couple single family deals, but his engineer mindset was just like, this is not it. And I think he listened to one of your podcasts, and he was like, wow, this is it. And so he attended one of your events, and I was, again, in constant communication with him. And I told him, like, go do your multifamily thing, and I'm going to stick to my single family business. And not too long after that, he actually came to me with a lead, a 24 unit in San Antonio that he had gotten under contract, and that he was going to wholesale it and make a tremendous amount of money. And that's when I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing wrong here? How many houses do I need to flip in order to make that kind of money? and it was a no-brainer for me. I had probably 100 active single family leads that I was working at the time. And I called one of my buddies and I was like, hey, I'm selling my entire workspace of leads on Podio. I had a bunch of leads, and do you want it for $5,000? And he's like, dude, yeah, I'll take it. So I just completely sold all of my single family information. Like I just went all in. Like when I say all in from that day till now, I don't touch a single family house. And so, I ended up, getting educated, right? I think that's step number one, get educated, learn the language, get the right information from the right people doing deals. And so started listening to your podcast. I started, I took the course of the SDA just to understand the underwriting. I started attending a couple of multifamily events, and I was like, this is it. And, I just took the leap of faith, and I pulled a list of 8 to 40 units. I realized, that's going to be the mom and pop, owner. That's going to be, easier for me, low earnest money. I mean, I don't know. I from now I would go bigger much sooner, but 8 to 40 unit list I pulled, and I started marketing. I started sending mailers, thousands of mailers. I started making a ton of phone calls, texting. I started, I was doing everything, generating leads. And since I knew how to wholesale really well, I told myself, hey, I'm going to wholesale my first few small multifamily deals. And just to get the lingo right, just to understand what I'm doing, just to, partner with a buyer who's extremely experienced. I learned so much. But I ended up wholesaling 5 small multifamily deals before I bought my first one. And out of those 5, there was 2 that were 6-figure fees. The other ones were 5-figure fees. It was like, that's it. I was sold. And, I told myself after that 5th deal, I was like, I'm back in wholesaling. I'm back in transactional based real estate. There's no scalability here for me. And so I said, I had a 16 unit under contract, and we are going to wholesale it and make a couple $100,000. But I was like, you know what? Like, I don't even want the money anymore. Like, I'm not driven by that. I want to get in the game. I want to buy it and hold it and manage it and sell it. And we bought it. We didn't know what we were doing. We syndicated a small little 16 unit, $180,000 raised, friends and family signed on the loan. I think we had like 4 signers on the loan, and on a small little $500,000 deal. And we hired a third-party management company, and I got, extremely involved. I got so involved in that deal because, again, I had my dad sign on a loan. I had my, uncles and aunts investing in the deal. I had people that, believed in me in single family that just truly invested in me because they knew what I did in single family. Like they knew I hadn't done any apartment buildings. And so I had so much on the line for me. And so I got very involved in the management of that little 16 unit, and ended up, long story short, I ended up firing the manager because I was still leasing all the units. I was hiring all the, contractors. I was doing all the branding. I, had it online everywhere. So we ended up firing the management company, started our own. And, shortly thereafter, the law of the first deal, 3 months later, we bought a 32 unit off market, started cold calling like crazy. And
so Adrian, I'm gonna cut you off for 1 second.
Go ahead.
So what you're doing is you're utilizing kind of your wholesaling strategies to find off-market deals.
Correct.
Now, what I found over time is that it gets more difficult to do that with large deals because there's more brokers involved. They're kind of doing a lot of that work. What I'm curious though is, are there any of those specific strategies that you employ into the larger deals that do still work inside of that finding the true off-market deals?
Yeah. No, good question. So we've bought and sold over 1,000 units now. And 95% of them have been off market. I have, between me and my partner, we found it off market through, mailers, through cold calling. I've had some very cool stories that I think I shared with you, Mike, at luncheon, your event. But yeah, no, we just closed. The last 2 deals I just closed right now were a total of 600 units. They were all off market, no broker, and I found the owner on Facebook.
So what are some of the main strategies that you use that are just like bangers? That you're just like, hey, this works, like, or is it kind of a culmination of all the little strategies?
So it's a combination of a lot of different things, but what I got really good at is pulling the list, working the list. Chose a couple markets, and got really good. I mean, got really good at skip tracing it. So I go all the way down until the entity owner, the president, the vice president. And so I have a list, I have a database, a CRM that has all of that information. And so, between a mixture of postcards, between a mixture of cold calling, and between a mixture of showing up to their house and knocking on their door and getting the deal done, has been a reason why we are where we are. And I've had to go up against brokers that have been in the business for 20 years and, probably have, a huge buyer ready to go compared to me, the small little 26-year-old. But because I, had that slight edge of either going to his house, making the phone call, or doing something different, has allowed me to win the deals. And I still think they work today. You just have to be different, and you have to take action and have the gut to go out there and be different, because I've had to battle against people paying $1 million more for deals, $2 million more for deals. And because the owner liked me, respected me, saw someone in me that, maybe he wished he could be, or, something along those lines, they like me and respect me, and I deliver.
I think that's pretty intriguing. So it sounds like your edge was more getting that human factor involved. Because here's the thing. People want to do business. Like, they still want to make what they want to make on the deal. Like if some kid came up to me and was like, "Hey, I want to buy your deal for 5 million under what everyone else is willing to offer you," I'd be like, "I don't care. Like, I'm not selling it to you. As much as I like you, sorry, buddy." But when it's close, that could tilt the scale in your favor, right? And it sounds like you're taking advantage of that. And I'm just curious. I mean, a lot of this stuff, it takes a lot of work. So you're kind of acting as the broker and as the buyer. Do you have a team or people that you hire to do any of this work for you? What does that look like?
So a majority of our team right now is mainly in the operational side. So we're vertically integrated, and a majority of my team is, on the management side. I have a couple of acquisitions partners, but majority has been, me and my partner, and, maybe one acquisitions guy. And of course, my VAs who do all the skip tracing and the data mining. But like we were talking about earlier on the sales, regarding sales, I don't see sales as sales. I see it as a relationship that I'm building with somebody, a genuine relationship. It's not just any relationship, because you have to be genuine about building that relationship with the person. If not, they're going to catch it. And so I've had to, in multifamily, I mean, in single family, I was just, closing deals in 2 weeks. I mean, I would find the owner and I would close a deal in 2 weeks and fund it. With multifamily, I mean, it takes time to get the owner prepared and, negotiate and get it all figured out. And maybe the owner's not ready now, but he'll be ready in 6 months and 12 months. So I build that relationship with the owner just the same way that brokers do. I mean, I think whenever a broker sends me a deal, I think of it like, man, they beat me to it, so I try my best to, make friends and, build rapport first. I've had some challenges where, we're fighting for a deal, and, I talk to the owner and he's like, "All right, tell me what your price is." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to talk about the deal. I don't want to talk about the price. Tell me about, your vacation. What are you doing this summer?" I mean, I tried to not talk about the deal in the beginning, and tried to, frame the conversation from the get to build rapport first. And then we talk about the deal later. And I feel like that's been working for me.
Now, you strike me as a kind of relationship guy. And why did you partner with Mauricio, and why does that partnership work?
Yeah. So me and him have been working together for about 6 years now. And he is the engineer, the analytical, the finance, accounting. He can underwrite a deal in probably 10 minutes, and it's going to take me a whole day to underwrite it. And so we actually started working very well together in the construction space. So he was the PM and I was a superintendent, assistant superintendent. And so we started, getting to work very well together. We built a $20-30 million construction project together. And then we started wholesaling single family houses. and then it worked out. And then in multifamily, it got to the point where I was bringing the deals. I was, finding the leads, doing the cold calling, doing the door knocking, doing the aggressive guerrilla marketing. And he would underwrite the deals, tell me what I need to get it under contract for. And then I would just go to the owner and get it under contract for that price. And it just started working out very well like that. And of course now we have a, huge team and we play different roles, but, I think at the end of the day, like he's the yin, I'm the yang. And we're both very different, but the same. It's interesting.
Yeah. What would you say? What are your kind of your parting advice to someone? And look, you started really young, and a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm too young, or I'm too old, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. What's kind of your guidance to someone who was maybe where you were and when you were 17 years old? What would you tell them?
I would say pick up, some of these books that everybody's talking about. Listen to the tapes that everybody talks about. The Think and Grow Rich, the Bob Proctors, the Jim Rohns, the Tony Robbins. I mean, there's seminars that you can attend for a couple $100. There's some tapes online that are free. YouTube. I mean, there's so much stuff on YouTube that I learned that's just absolutely free. So, I mean, the young people, may not have as much money. They don't have a lot of money to spend on education. But there's a lot of free resources. Put yourself in the right room. I mean, I think that's what helped me a lot is getting involved with the right people, putting myself in the right room. And another thing is like, I didn't think that I wasn't acting like a 26-year-old. Don't act like a 23-year-old. Like, if you're a 23-year-old, don't act like it, because if not, people will treat you like it. So you gotta mature very quickly if you want to be in this business and be a millionaire in this business. You have to mature and you just have to get really focused and do the studying, do the education, but most importantly, take massive action. Because, being young in the business, the only reason why I have that slight edge is because I took massive action and I got a lot of leads and I got a lot of appointments and I got a lot of opportunities just by making the calls, doing the knocking, sending the mailers, and, involving myself in the right room, attending all the events. I have, lanyards still from like 2015, 2016 of events that I've been to. I was just obsessed with it.
I see them. You got a whole bookshelf full of them. Dude, I love your energy, Adrian. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm very active on Instagram. I post a lot of the interior walkthroughs and the deals that I'm working, and I'm very active on there. So definitely reach out to me on Instagram, send me a message. I'd love to connect with anybody here on the show. And yeah, I mean that's it. And then if you need my email or anything, we can get it through Instagram and connect like that. So
that's awesome, dude. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.